So we can just get Kathy to do the oath before the meeting?
Yeah, that'll work.
And then,
you got the papers for her?
That doesn't even live.
I have it here.
she got it.
Oh, she
And
got it,
then,
okay, perfect.
Linda will just notarize it later when she watches
Well, they're almost
the
all
video.
done now, that are
Okay. Works for me.
Thanks, Mike.
She's been appointed, so
And she has like,
it's fine.
council
Yeah,
that
anyway.
way, so I didn't, people look good, and then I look at them. Yeah, right.
So that's what we're gonna do, Dan, is we're gonna have Kathy do the oath first, and
Yep.
she'll be a full member, and then we're good to go, okay?
All right, perfect.
So you wanna go ahead and get started with that whenever you want?
Yeah, the recording's going. So if you just wanna stand up, raise your right hand and read the oath.
I, Kathy O'Malley, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that I discharge faithfully the duties of the Office of Economic Development Authority in the County of Dodge, the State of Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, pass it down here, Kathy, I'll grab it. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, we will call the meeting to order. We'll go right into approval of minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
There's a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Financial report, is there any questions on the income statement or the balance sheet or the loan for Nicholas? They're all in your packet.
Just one I was gonna highlight here, we do have this, one on, your page 10 of your EDA loans there, we've got the Clamp E loan there. So that, has been finished being paid off, so we're gonna remove that next month, so, just so you can see that has a zero balance, so.
Everybody's current?
Looks like it. That's always nice.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move into our business facade improvement grant.
Okay, so we just got a request for reimbursement from Full Circle Wellness. They've installed their sign. The total request is $212. I think the sign looks great. It's nice that we can do this for a new business. You know, the intent of the program originally is to rehab things, but when a new business starts up in town, it's great that we can provide some support.
I will make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We shall move on next to our 2021 budget. Is there any questions on that? I see you had added that 5,000 for advertising.
Yeah, so I didn't get any notes from any board members about changing it, so.
Okay.
Once it's approved, then I think it'll go to the council and.
That was about the only change, wasn't it? The
What's
biggest
that?
change?
That was the biggest change.
Yeah.
The $5,000 advertising.
So we shrunk the commercial programs to 10,000 because that's where we were kind of hitting the mark most years, and then we added 5,000 to advertising.
No, do we need a motion on that to send it to council?
No, you'd be making a recommendation that, yeah, so we'd have a motion to recommend a positive, to the council on the budget for them.
I will take a motion to recommend that to the council.
I'll make that motion.
Second. So, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will send that on to council. Next is city-owned land. We had brought that up last meeting, talking about engineering fees and stuff.
Yeah, so there are kind of two portions to this. So we got the proposal from WHKS to conduct a survey, and that'll just provide some good information to help understand how development on the land can work out. So what they'll provide us is some ideas for planned lots, the roadways, where utilities will go, and the pond to help with the wetland issue that exists on the furthest east corner. And then I think that'll help the board, you know, understand what can work in there, and then we can start identifying how we want to fit things in. So I'm looking for an approval of this proposal from WHKS so that I can get back to Brandon with that and hopefully get it done as soon as possible.
See it in there, it's $3,500 estimates.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got any questions on that?
Just so you know, you've got the scope of services there too, so unless you'd like to get that changed, if you'd like to see anything else in there, the items that they're looking at are, planned lots, roadways, utilities, the pond, and then potential zoning and site characteristics, and then how they're gonna do it. And they're planning on doing 2 kind of maps for us there to show us exactly how it'll look. So if there's anything else, those are things that I talked with Brandon about identifying, especially the pond and then the road access. But, those are the items he's coming up with. If you'd like to see anything else in specific, we can add that in.
And I will note, we do have $3,000 in this year's budget for engineering, so that'll help cover the majority of these costs.
Right, the other costs could be, we could take that out, the other $500 out of legal, because I think you could make the justification, this will have some legal ramifications too.
I'll make the motion to approve, we gotta get something done on here.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll get that rolling.
Okay, so the second half of this is just a worksheet, intended to get the board discussing on how they see development, in the Southwest property. So I'd like for each board member to fill out the parcel with the different types of land use they'd like to see in specific locations. I provided an example. It is by no means, what you should base yours off of, unless you like it a lot. And so this, you know, I think we can pair with what we get back from Brandon, and that'll give us a really good concrete idea of how to move forward with this project. One thing I would like to note before, and Brandon brought it to our attention, so on the property, there is a ridge line, and it kind of runs from the center of the cemetery directly south. And on this side of the property, you would need to have a lift station for the sewage and other utilities to get up there. So I think the priority for development would most likely be this portion here first, because that's the easiest location to get utilities out to. So maybe just consider that when you're doing this. It's probably with, you know, this section over here, around 25 acres. If you draw that square straight down from the trailer park, that's 22.5 acres. And then with the pond, you're probably, and the roadway, you're probably left with 20 acres to play with on kind of the first stage of development in this project. So that's just something to consider. I didn't note it in the memo, but Brandon had brought it to our attention. So I've added definitions of the various land uses that I think would be appropriate for this parcel, and some things that the board has discussed, like Jen has brought up, housing, and the, you know, one of the main directives of the EDA is to work on commercial development. So those are included there. And so, yeah, when you draw this out, try to consider what land uses complement each other, what goes next to each other. You probably don't want to put housing right next to industrial. So those are just some things to consider, and I don't know if you've got anything to add, Tim?
No, I mean, I think, you know, Nicholas kind of highlighted, we're just, kind of making this an exercise, so we have good guidance on what we need to be working on, you know, in terms of figuring out what'll fit in there. I think right now we would term this a business park. And so, you know, what I don't want is people to be pigeonholed into industrial park or commercial or whatnot. I mean, we think that we wanna make sure there's land available for business. I had a lengthy conversation with Guy Cohenhofer from the county. He has quite a bit of feedback for us on what he feels is, the right use of this property. So that was interesting, and, I appreciate his feedback, and he's not wrong. We know that, some people have said housing, you know, and part of this could become housing, but, you know, with the location being so close to Highway 14, and with Highway 14 basically gonna be an interstate, you know, in the next year here with the completion of that 4 lanes by Claremont, you know, it only means that there more and more growth potential in this area, you know, in essence. So something to take into account would be, you know, what the future use of this property would be. It's the only land that the city really controls access to and use for, so something to keep in mind.
Yeah. And I think there was one other thing I needed to note.
But you can take that sheet with you and just bring that back to the next council meeting or scan it
Yeah.
to Nicholas here this month, so we can start sort of figuring out what people are thinking.
Yeah, and maybe the next step would be, once we've got the report from WHKS and your feedback, then we can start identifying maybe, the types and maybe certain businesses that the EDA would like to see in this location, so.
Part of the reason we wanna flush this out too is because if we're gonna go for funding, you know, from either the state of Minnesota or the federal government, you know, we built a business park in Blue Earth where I was at, and we used about half of it was paid for by the federal government, so there are opportunities at times to do that. You know, it makes it a little easier for us to go ahead and get that funding, because I know the city itself isn't gonna be able to pay for all this. So we're gonna have to get some help from DEED or from USDA or some of these other programs, so.
And am I correct to make this, the pond has to go where that pond is located at?
It's probably gonna be in either corner there, either on the north side or the south side of that.
It has to help with Carter stuff there.
Right, if you look at, a map with like the geographic features, there's a little bit of wetland strip that runs right through there. So the pond will probably go where it is on that image or on the south corner.
I mean, I could see part of it edging onto Carter's property too, if
Yeah.
that's what
We
makes
just have an
most
agreement
sense.
with him that he's gonna help pay for part of that.
Well, right, depending on where it goes, right. I mean, that's gonna raise the value of his property tremendously, so.
Yeah, you can see the waterway going through his property. Or the gully, whatever you wanna call it. Okay, well, if we can get them filled out and back to Nicholas, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
Next then, we shall go on to our coordinators report.
Okay, so Dodge County Youth Hockey, we had some conversations with them. They're going to be presenting, a proposed project for a new ice arena complex in Casson. It's expected to be somewhere on that southwest property that we're looking at. They'll bring, you know, their proposed project, and we've also asked them, because we expect them to make a request for some type of subsidy, so we've asked them to clarify what that will be. So we'll have them at the next meeting for that. I talked to Nancy about the TIP district. She, as you'll note on the agenda, she was unable to attend today, so we'll just have that conversation at the next meeting. It's something that she will assign the interest at the end of the year, so it's fine that we've moved it back a month, so there's no interest accrued there. I've talked to a couple local businesses, like events, about the Dodge County Small Business and Nonprofit Relief Funds program. Tim and I had a phone call with Retail Strategies. They're a company that reached out to us, and they help identify certain retail gaps, and then they've got connections with commercial businesses that they can help bring in. We've asked for some proposals from them, so hopefully we'll get those soon. And then I met with Kathy to get her up to speed on some of the work the EDA's been doing, over the last couple months. The office needs survey, you'll see that I've attached that. We only got 12 responses. I was hoping for more, but it definitely, helps to get some responses. I'll forward this on to Ed and Tina Butler, and I'll let them make their own conclusions, but I think there is some useful information, especially on what advantages you see in using a co-working space that we can incorporate into a possible business plan. And we'll see where things lie with them and what the next steps will be on that project. We've filled the open EDA board seat. The 2021 budget is being recommended to council. So the CARES Act funds, I've also attached the Dodge County application and guidelines for that small business and nonprofit relief funds program. So if you can share this information within your networks, I'm going to try and reach out to the banks and some accounting firms tomorrow while I'm at Dodge County, so that they're aware of the program, and if they know of any businesses that they have, dealings with, that they can share this program with them. If you want a copy of that kind of blue square of basic information, the kind of promotional image, I can get you a copy of that, and if you wanna print it out, put it up somewhere, or just email it around, that's, I can do that, I can share that with you. And that kinda wraps it up for the coordinator's report.
Does the Dodge County Cares coincide with Mantorville?
So
What's that?
The Mantorville Cares?
Vanderbilt, I think they might have their own program. So the one thing is you can't apply for the Vanderbilt CARES Act funds if you're a business and the Dodge County. And so that's why Dodge County partnered with, you know, Casson and Dodge Center and as many cities in the county as possible, so that, they would commit some funds, but also it would just reduce redundancies, so that there's we tried to get one program in the county, so that when a business from Manorville applies to the county, I don't have to go and check to make sure they haven't applied with the city of Manorville. So there might be.
Who opted out, Nicholas?
Hayfield and Manorville.
Okay, so Manorville really isn't participating, so it's actually a separate program.
Yeah, 'cause I just finished the Mantorville Cares, and I finished Goodhue Cares, and I thought, isn't it odd that Dodge County doesn't have one?
Oh, we do.
That's this program right here.
Well, it's hidden.
Well, we just approved it on
Okay.
the 26th, so it came on a little later, but it's there, and we're trying to get the visibility out. I think we got over 1,000 hits on Facebook the day that I posted it, so we're trying to get it out there as much as possible.
Yeah, 'cause these others are due today.
Oh, well, this one's due October 1st.
Okay.
And then if you submit an application after October 1st, if there's still funds left over from that initial review of the first round of applications, then we'll start allocating funds to the later applications.
And who all can apply? I know you mentioned that some nonprofits can apply too. Or is
Yeah,
that a different
nonprofits,
program?
there's $100,000 for nonprofits, and we'll see where that, funding ends up, if Dodge County's gonna put more to it or not. So really, most commercially located businesses with a physical establishment are eligible to apply for COVID-related expenses. So if you bought a lot of PPE, or you retrofitted your office with, you know, plexiglass, you bought new computers for your staff so that they can work from home, those are eligible costs. And rent, mortgage payments, and utility payments are eligible as well. And the application, I didn't put a link in there is a link in the image that will take you to the county page, the little bit.ly link. And there you can download the application, and I've made it so that it's easy to just fill out on a computer, so you don't have to print it out, scan it. It's easy if you know, some businesses don't have printers, so they can just type in their information and submit it that way.
Have you been in contact as a Dodge County representative with the newspaper to see if you can do a feature article on this?
Not yet, I was meant to do that, but.
'Cause, yeah, I think that would be great, and this should be,
Mhm.
you know, looking at the news content in the newspaper, I think they definitely have
Yeah.
space for an article like this.
Yeah.
So, I would say this should be the headline, because, I mean, this is huge, and I know you and I talked about trying to get this money out to people, because I'm afraid that some folks aren't gonna take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Partly because they don't know, and partly because they just aren't sure what to do, so.
Mhm.
Part of it
Okay.
could be that there's not gonna be that many businesses that show a loss from March 15th on, once you calculate in the PPP, IDL, the D, and the other stuff.
Right.
Well, and that's, yeah, part of it, if you look at the, you know, the demonstrated, it can't have been covered by something else. So,
Right.
for example, if you're a Manorville business, and you use the Manorville funding, then you can't apply for the
Right.
Dodge County funding, because you've already got that.
Mhm.
So,
In a sense, these are the same funds as the
same
PPP,
dollars, yeah.
or the PPP, but it's to fill in what was not filled in by the PPP.
Right.
So
No, it's a
the
good
man-
thing, I just think it's nothing we can do, but the
Mhm.
whole CARES Act thing having to be done by November 1st, forever, might be too soon. because a lot of this other aid and stimulus got shot out so quick that it did bridge the gap for a lot, not everybody. But we just have to find those folks that it didn't bridge the entire gap for.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see if they would,
Restaurants, bars, hair salons.
I would love to see if they could slide it into December, but I don't know if they will.
Yeah.
That'd be great if they could give you an extra month or something, 'cause you're right, you know, you've talked about this whole time, you know, not necessarily feeling the effects right away, but into next year is where people are gonna be like, oops, you know.
Well, Dodge County's is 10,000, but Manorville's is 5,000.
Mhm.
So
Dutch
if
County
you
also
don't-
has a minimum of 1,000 too.
So does Manorville.
Okay.
If you don't apply for Manorville, you would still qualify to apply for Dodge County.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and say you got denied from Manorville's, I mean, there's a good chance you would get denied from Dutch County's, but that wouldn't stop you from applying.
From applying.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you never applied for Manorville, you sure can apply to Dutch County.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that for a second. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but Manorville opted out, so they put no funds into Dodge County.
No.
CASA
And
took
pre-
our, what, 25 or 50,000?
40,000.
40,000, we took $40,000 of CASA money and put it in Dodge County.
We allocated it.
So
that's right.
somebody in Manorville just says, I'm not gonna apply for the Manorville one, I'll apply for the county one, because it's more.
Mhm.
Smart people.
Smart people.
Well, I don't necessarily
Is
know,
what it
so
is.
we allocated funds, you know, we haven't necessarily cut any checks.
Right.
So I think part of it was, the idea was that as an EDA, we wanted to support this effort
Yep,
towards
absolutely.
having them create this program, because it seemed like the scaling was better. At the same time, you know, I'm not gonna send a check to Dodge County, you know. So if in October, they're still at $500,000 in their account, that $40,000 that we committed to it can be reallocated by the council. So I don't know that it necessarily hurts us any. We're still trying to support our businesses, and this money is all use it or lose it. And so that's the thing.
Oh, I understand that, Coy, it just
Yeah.
seems a
No,
little
I get
odd
what
that
you're saying. I
You could
just-
opt out, but it'd still participate,
You know,
that's kinda.
That's the thing is, I mean, that's a commissioner's choice more than anything else. You know, in reality, the commissioners probably should have said, if you don't want to, then you can't participate, you know.
But there are some county funds too, not just city funds,
Yes.
isn't there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, got
And
it.
the bulk of it's gonna be county funds,
County,
right?
Yeah, county put in 700,000.
Perfect.
And then I think the city's contribution probably will max out at around 60 to 70.
Yeah, and a lot of that's coming from us.
Right.
Sure.
Committed from us at least, so.
All right, thank you.
But there's good potential for businesses in town.
Right.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to our administrator's report, which is in
Sure.
the packet.
Just a couple of items there, not to belabor it, we're actually doing really well time-wise, so I actually wanted to highlight that under other business going forward, what I'd like to do on our agenda is each of our meetings, we're gonna have what I call a members roundtable. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna give you guys a chance at the end of our meetings to highlight anything you wanna highlight. You know, if you have something that's going on with your business, or if you have something that, you've noticed in town, so that way we get enough feedback from you, because I think it's important to hear from you. 'Cause otherwise, sometimes we buzz through these things and maybe we don't have all the discussion we'd wanna have on things, so, just follow up on that though. So, you've got my report there, legislature, we're tracking that, there isn't a lot going on, I don't expect, I expect them to have a lot more one-day sessions here, at least 2 more this fall before the elections. One thing that we are looking at is, we have a meeting this afternoon, with, Christina Pearson from Compass, which is our electric power purchasing group that we work with. So they are looking at starting an economic development wing of their organization, which might be somewhat similar to, some of you are familiar with People's Energy. They do a lot of economic development work, partly because they try to diversify their own revenue streams. But, Compass is looking at creating some revolving loan funds for energy efficiency especially. So the nice thing about that is that because we're a member, we could help tap those funds for our local businesses as well, which would be another resource for, you know, obviously the EDA can't pay for everything.
Mhm.
But if we can help people get to resources that are in addition to what we already have on the books, it just is a benefit for us, so, just wanted to let you know there. The other thing that is an EDA thing that's quite interesting, if you haven't had a chance to try this rural broadband test, I did that last week. There's a, link in there, you can test your speed. We know that broadband and high-speed internet is a huge thing for folks that, are working at home and also working, kind of moving out of the city. So for us, of course, being a smaller community, it's a draw. So that high-speed internet is such a positive thing for us, so, Those are the items that I've got for you today. And then one other thing I'll just note is that, we did receive notice, cause I know, Nichols had spent some time on getting the WPA wall, grant request together. We did receive notice that they're not funding that this year, so.
We tried.
Yeah, they're not funding a lot this year, so obviously the state's got some real budget issues to work out, so. Any questions for anybody on that? Okay.
Did you say that you had, people looking for rental, that you were gonna give this list to the people who own the building on the corner?
I'm
You're
not
talking
sure.
the co-working space, Janice, or?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give them the results of this survey, but, we discussed this maybe 2 meetings ago, that, they're looking for assistance from the EDA, and as much as, what we kind of worked out was that I'll help them work on a business plan for their project, and then, so, the survey was kind of to identify the demand, just to make sure that, you know, the project should move forward at some level, and I think, you saw some positive feedback, you know, with the 6 maybes and the 1 yes that we'd use a co-working space. And, you know, to really get that started, you wanna find at least 1 good tenant, and then that can really generate a lot of energy with news stories and other things like that, and that can be the draw, whereas if it's an empty co-working space, you know, people will be a lot more hesitant to start using it.
I mean, I'm just thinking that possibly we should be sharing that information with our new multi-business building. Used to be Shopko, and then we have some empty buildings on Main Street that, you know, maybe they would like to be able to contact those people to see if their facilities might meet their needs.
Well, and this is mostly directed towards, businesses based out of their homes, because the co-working space would act as that next step to getting office space in Casson, where it's really hard to make that jump from your home business to renting at a building, because oftentimes it doesn't really pan out, and they might rent it for a couple months, whereas the co-working spaces, it's affordable office space that they can rent for as much time as they need. And so that's where the focus is on this. But yeah, I mean, whenever there's a business that's looking for certain spaces, like I had one business, a national chain, contact me about certain locations in Casson, and I directed them towards the Shopko building and some of the vacant properties in the south as well.
I guess so someone can contact you if they have some rental availability, which could be co-working.
Yeah, and one thing that I did a Facebook post a couple months ago, and I've been thinking about doing another one again, is that I kind of reworked the property inventory form online, because it was just dated and it wasn't very clear what was available. So maybe I can make another post saying, landowners and commercial property owners can submit their properties, whether they're for sale or for rent, and we can host that online. Because when people from out of state, think of Casson and maybe they wanna move or start a business here, they usually look on the city website for available property. So I'd like to get that open as much as possible. We didn't get any hits last time I posted, but I can post it again and see if, we can get more.
Yeah, 'cause we have rental properties, not commercial,
Mhm.
but I always get in August people from out of town looking for someplace, a home or an apartment to
Mhm.
rent. Although we never have any available.
Right.
But we get them all the time, so.
Okay. We got any other business that anybody needs?
Well, actually, Janice hits on some interesting points that I'd like to explore too and get your feedback and something to think about. one of the issues that we run into is that, there are certain properties in town where the current owner is vacant, for example, vacant storefront or it's vacant land, where the current owner is charging or is asking for what we would consider to be an exorbitant amount of money. And so that really deters development. You know, it deters development on greenfield development, for example, on the south side of town. Even on Main Street, we have some buildings that are vacant where the sale price for those is, you know, twice what would be, you know, expected for it to really. You guys have any thoughts on how we can encourage those business owners or landowners to be more realistic about their, you know, their desire for, I mean, because obviously for us, we're limited by the amount of land that's available. And if people are asking such an exorbitant amount of money, then it's impossible for us to really work on anything. Any feedback you guys have on that?
The longer they don't get what they want, you would think that the realization would be that they would lower their price. I mean,
You'd think.
how long would they want something to sit empty?
Yeah.
And how long would the city want something empty as well?
Well, certainly, you know, that's the thing, is we don't really want it empty. We've got one
Right.
business that's been empty since February, you know, on Main Street, so that's over 6 months now, where I don't see any particular movement there. I know Nicholas attempted to contact the, you know, property owner and really didn't get a response, but, so it's just one of those things where we're kind of running into that. You're right, yeah, you'd think you'd wanna get moving. If you're not gonna do something with it, sell it, right?
Hmm.
But, you know, we run into this difficulty where we have the city only has a finite ability to influence this. I can't,
Right.
you know, I can't force them to sell it, I don't wanna do that, it's not my job, but at the same time, we wanna try and bring those connections together, and if the price tags are just so far apart, it's impossible to do.
It might be dependent on the amount of loans they have invested into that property.
Oh, sure,
As
yeah.
to create a short sale.
Yeah.
So, in the case of the one I'm thinking of, Main Street, you know, I did speak with her to see if maybe she had tried for any of the, available funding, you know, the
Mhm.
PPP loans or whatever, and the hesitation was, I'm already can't pay for one loan, you know, how am I gonna do another one?
Sure. No, that's a good point, you're right. So I suppose if you've got, even if the property's only worth $200,000, if you've got a $300,000 mortgage, you're gonna try and get as much as you can about, so that's a good point. I don't know if that's something we would, that's, the problem is we run into such big numbers there, cause you know, it'd be like, well, heck, we could buy this down and, you know, help you make the sale, but, you know, that's gonna be difficult for us to do more than once or twice, if it's gonna be talking about $50,000 or $100,000, so. I just, that's the issue, we have only a certain amount of real estate, and, you know, try to make it work.
But if you try to do that on one business, then you're gonna have all the businesses that say, oh, I want more, and then now.
Well, no, and that's what I mean, and so it's a difficulty to try and, you know, make that work, right?
That's somewhere we'd be in trouble, trying to come up with funds, cause everybody's gonna raise their price.
Right.
Hoping the city will help them out.
Right.
But I don't know, it's all gonna come down to, people are either gonna have to figure out how much they wanna keep paying their property tax on their property, or determine if they're gonna sell it, even if they end up at a loss.
Right.
They might be farther ahead the loss now than the loss down the road, because of the loss in the sale and the loss of the future payment, so, but.
No, that's a good point.
It's gonna come down to the business owners.
Yeah, I guess I'm just interested, if you guys have any thoughts, let us know, cause, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things where, you know, we wanna encourage people to try and have, you know, transition plans too. That's the other thing I don't wanna see is, you know, as some of the baby boomers are really starting to, you know, retire now, it's like, we wanna make sure that they have a transition plan so that they know, you know, what's coming next. You know, a lot of folks have worked hard in their business, and so I know Nicholas can help provide some of those services if you know somebody that's in that group that's trying to look at transitioning and try to, you know, facilitate a sale, you know, where we can connect someone to them. That's, you know, that's a lot of what we can do, is try to facilitate things. We can't necessarily force it, so.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
How's the bakery coming?
That's a good question. Any update on the bakery, Nicholas?
No, I know they're still working on, the inspection. I think they had some requests about the plumbing that they found really difficult to provide to the inspection from the state, so I think they've
Okay.
gotta get a plumber in there to map it out and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I do plan on contacting them again pretty
Sure.
soon.
I know that we did send some maintenance notices out to a couple businesses on Main Street for some, maintenance they need to do on their properties in terms of weeds and things like that, so we have followed up on that. A couple things, if we're gonna kinda start going into that roundtable, I'm sure you've all heard by now, Daniels is closed. They're transitioning over to a different model. It's a Mexican restaurant. It's, I think El Patron is gonna be the name of it.
Mhm.
And it's a group that owns a couple of other ones in other cities. The city council will be having their liquor license public hearing for them on the 23rd of September. So I would expect after that, probably that business will open up pretty quickly. So that's exciting, to see somebody new coming to town, investing there, and it's a great location, so I'm sure that, people will be doing well with that. We also were featured, last week on the ABC6 channel. They came and did a kind of a video and, interview with me about the, Shopko property. So it sounds like right now that, end of September is kind of the goal for them. They're gonna have the ice cream parlor opening up there, and then their cold storage. So that's exciting too, to see some things going in there. Every day I've been driving past it, you've seen the updates to the building and the painting and things like that, so.
Everybody got anything else? Then we'll move on to items to add to the October EDA meeting. We got the downtown lot, Tim.
And if we've got the survey from WHKS, that'll be there. And the Dodge County Youth Hockey will be presenting. I think those are the 3 items we know for certain that will be on October meeting.
They say how long is the presentation?
We talked about it. We'll tell them it's gonna be no more than 15 minutes.
Who's presenting? Who is your contact?
Let me just pull up the email.
I just.
Chris Reiner, I think he goes by CJ, and Nick Davidson.
I just removed myself from the Dodge County Youth Board, so.
Oh. That conflict's taken care of.
It's been an ongoing conversation, probably for about 5-10 years.
Yeah.
The facilities study, that they're outsizing where we're at, so, where they're at.
Okay. There's no other items. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next meeting, October 6th.
It's snowing then.
Could be, it's pretty cold
Could
last
be.
night, I'll tell you that much. It was nippy.
No, it's called crisp.
It was cool.
It's called fall.
Yeah, it was called
Fall
perfect
in
weather.
Minnesota.
Oh, it was nice, it was good.
It does come
definitely
fast
felt like fall.
sometimes.
Yeah, too fast.
Yeah, with you.
So I'll see you tonight.
Coming tonight?
Thank you.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Hanson yesterday. He had some materials for, gosh, must be 3-4 weeks now. He's been talking about his investors, and they give him, all of the packets that I had.
Yeah.
So I called and asked him, he said, no, I'm not done with reviews yet, I'm not done talking to all of my investors.